Hanging in there.
I'd like to call the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners meeting for May 17th, 2022 to order. And we will begin with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll move on to approving the regular meeting proposed agenda.
I'll move the agenda if there's no changes.
I will second.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the proposed agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission, and Commissioner Schmidt, to your point, there's no formal changes to the agenda, but just a couple of clarifying notes. On item 2.12, which is consider approval of a collective bargaining agreement with MPEA, Correction Officers Master Control Operators Unit. There was a revised RBA that was sent to you. We missed one position title, so the item itself doesn't change, the motion doesn't change, but the settlement summary that was sent to you is slightly different. And then with the clarification for the public, but also with the board, we did add item 2.26 to the consent agenda, which is a retroactive approval of resolutions for Health and Human Services recommendations to the state of Minnesota. So that is on your agenda, but it was not in the published agenda, so I just note it for the public.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda with the changes to 2.12 and the addition of 2.26.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Now we'll move on to announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Just a few short announcements for you. First of all, just to note that 2 commissioners and staff will be leaving this afternoon for Washington, D.C. for discussions on our federal transportation and parks funding requests. A note for those who are traveling, your first meeting tomorrow will be at 8:30 at the Primacy Strategy Group for a briefing and orientation. We have secured a meeting with Senator Klobuchar, as well as with Congressman Emmer, and then there will be other meetings as well. So it's a dynamic schedule for you, and it's still changing throughout the day. We'll be getting materials to you at the end of the meeting. Andrew's making copies for you, and then I do believe if the commissioners are interested, Andrew and Gina will be available to do a little bit of briefing on your talking points. So have a great trip. Second of all, we do have a request from Wright County. They have had some departures in their GIS department, and they've requested if we could support them in the short term while they do some hiring. Andrew has looked at it with Brett, and we can sure accommodate that. So the county attorney and I will be writing up a small kind of agreement between the 2 counties, and they will reimburse us for our costs. It's only a few hours a week. We'll maintain their GIS website for them while they hire new folks, and we can probably do it remotely, so there won't even be travel involved. But just a nice gesture to the counties, to our neighboring county.
It's, Madam Chair, if I can just add, it's a chance for us to pay back. When we had a gap in probation, their staff came over and helped us out. So that's the kind of cooperation I think people expect of local government.
And if it's de minimis, I may not even bill them if the board's okay with it. Again, we'll track it, but it's really just helping them out. And as you said, they've been great for us. Third update is just a quick update on legislative activities at the state. The headlines the last 48 hours, excuse me, have been about the global agreement. And while that is true and it's in place, your lobbyist, Ann, has sent out an email to you this morning kind of putting a reality behind that. They have just a few days left in this session to complete all of their work, and there's a lot of work to be done. Only 1 out of 14 omnibus bills has even been completed. Only 3, education, health, and public safety, are in committee, and 10 do not have targets and have yet to even meet for conference committee. So there's a lot of work to be done down there. All of our items are in good position. The one note of caution is that while $1.5 billion seems like a large bonding bill, the reality is it's exceptionally constrained. And while our project is well positioned, there's no guarantees at this point. So we'll be working very hard the next 72 hours with our state representative and also with our official representatives down in the legislature to see if we can get that to the finish line. I'll be updating the commissioners in DC as well when we know things. So if you'll be looking for text, so we can keep you in the loop. And then last but not least, we did have a significant amount of flooding over the weekend, and Marlon and Andrew have been doing a good job of keeping you involved and updated, and we've been publishing the road closures on the website and also communicating with the media. As of this morning, I think we still have 1 road closed, and we have weight restrictions on 1 road. It looks like we did have some damage to one of the county highways. I would also note that several of the townships have very, very significant local issues, and we've received calls from the township officials, and we'll be reaching out to them to see if there's any assistance we can give them. But we'll keep that information updated online as well. And that's it for announcements.
Thank you. Okay, now we can move on to open forum. Do we have anyone? signed
Yes,
up?
Madam Chair.
Did you want me to read
We
the?
have 5 people signed up.
5 people? Okay, so we'll start with first reading.
So open forum, the purpose of the open forum section of the county board agenda meeting is to allow the public input and/or information to be presented to the board that does not require action by the board. Personal attacks of any kind against another person, commissioner, or employee are not allowed. Campaign-type presentations are also not allowed. The time limit is 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 5 speakers per open forum. Time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. Discussions that require additional time beyond the original 15 minutes will be recessed and continued following the conclusion of the regular board business meeting agenda items. All input or information is to be addressed to the Board of Commissioners and not to members of the audience. Speaker handouts are public information. County may make copies of such handouts for the public if needed, and the county board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed. Also, we note we do not have any public hearings today, so there is not a potential for confusion between a public hearing and the open forum.
Okay, so who is our first person?
Our first speaker is Nancy Hassett. She is here to speak on immigration.
Welcome.
Good morning. So my name is Nancy Hassett. I'm representing Sanctuary and Resistance to Injustice, as well as Elk River Union Congregational Church, United Church of Christ. I'm reading this on behalf of Reverend Dr. Lori Pound-Fale, who was unable to present it on March 8th. Dr. Pound-Fale is the senior pastor at First Christian Church in Minneapolis. She writes, "You might ask whether my presence here is legitimate since I live in Minneapolis, and that is where the church I serve is located. In the words of Reverend Martin Luther King, I'm here because I was invited here. But more importantly, I'm here because injustice is here. Just as the 8th century prophets left their little villages and carried their 'Thus saith the Lord' far beyond the boundaries of their hometowns, and just as the Apostle Paul left his little village of Tarsus and carried the gospel of Jesus Christ to practically every hamlet and city of the Greco-Roman world, I too am compelled to carry the gospel of freedom beyond my particular hometown. We know the business of jails is a profit-making business. Jails are in the business of making money off of human bodies being in the jail. Even counties run jails. Here in Sherburne County, ICE is paying you over $100 per day per detainee. I understand that historically this county has made as much as $11 million a year. This cannot help but create a financial incentive to fill jail beds at the expense of the pain, suffering, and separation of immigrant families. This incentive helps to add money to the county budget, and it is human nature for us to all want more money for our budgets. I can't believe, though, that any of us want our budgets filled with money that comes from the pain, suffering, and separation of others. I don't understand any person of any faith being okay with money that passes from one entity to another that goes against the values of loving God and neighbor, the stranger as self. As an ally of sanctuary and resistance to injustice, I come today to join them in demanding that the county board and Sheriff Joel Brott take immediate steps to end the contract with ICE once and for all, and to release, not transfer, all immigrant detainees, God's children, currently held in the jail. Human dignity is more important than tainted money. God knows it's time. It's beyond time. And personally, I might add that, yes, there may be immigrants detained here that were charged with rape or attempted murder or various felonies, but once they get here,
Nancy,
they have
your 3 minutes are up if you want to wrap up.
served their time.
She just got us a 30-second warning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. But they've served their time. The system is, they go to our criminal court. If they're found guilty, they serve their time. Then they come to immigration, and they're either deported or released. So they should not be detained here because they've served their time. They've paid their price. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Okay, so our second person,
Carrie Watkins, she's here speaking on the voting machines.
welcome.
It's Kari Watkins, sorry. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm grateful to be able to speak with you this morning. Today, I am bringing 3 electronic election experts' testimony regarding voting machines. I found these testimonies published by an independent journal on Substack. While this may seem sketchy, I chose this journalist because he used 110 known media and publication articles as source. He also includes testimony of politicians, officials, and other experts to show that this is truly a bipartisan issue. If you would like to review this article, the address is at the bottom of the sheet. I will be turning in at the end. Again, I am asking for a public hearing on this issue. From Professor Matt Blaze, Georgetown University Computer Science, I come here today as a computer scientist who spent the better part of the last quarter century studying election system security. To be blunt, it's widely recognized, really indisputable fact that every piece of computerized voting equipment is in use at polling places today can be easily compromised in ways that have potential to disrupt election operations, compromise firmware and software, and potentially alter vote tallies in the absence of other safeguards. This is partly a consequence of historically poor design and implementation by equipment vendors, but it's untimely reflection of the nature of a complex software. It's simply beyond the state of art to build software systems that can reliably withstand targeted attacks by determined adversary in this kind of environment. Just as we don't expect the local sheriff to single-handedly defend against military ground invasions, we shouldn't expect county election IT managers to defend against cyber attacks by foreign intelligence services. Professor Alex Halderman, University of Michigan, Computer Science. I'm a professor of computer science and have spent the last 10 years studying the electronic voting systems that our nation relies on. My conclusion from that work is that our highly computerized election infrastructure is vulnerable to sabotage and even cyber attacks that could change votes. I know Americans' voting machines are vulnerable because my colleagues and I have hacked them repeatedly as part of a decade of research studying the technology that operates elections and learning how to make it stronger. We've created attacks that can spread from machine to machine like a computer virus and silently change election outcomes. We've studied touchscreen optical scan systems. In every single case, we found ways for attackers to sabotage machine and steal votes. In close elections, an attacker can probe the most important swing states or swing counties, find areas with the weakest protection, and strike there. In a close election year, changing a few votes in key localities could
You're
be enough
3 minutes are up.
to tip national results. The last one is on the sheet. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Next, Madam Chair, we have Gary Townsiger speaking on the Dominion voting machines.
Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Gary Tonziger. I'm from Elk River, and I'm going to talk to you about Dominion voting machines again. I do have an audio I want to play. It's a 2006 CNN report about the Dominion Smartmatic and Sequoia voting machines, so I want to just play that right now if I could.
Was on the board of directors. The Chavez government gave Bizta, Smartmatic, and another company a $91 million contract to run voting machines for the 2004 election. The next year, the owners of Smartmatic, primarily owned by Venezuelan businessmen, bought Sequoia, one of the top electronic voting system companies in the United States, for $16 million. Smartmatic is a labyrinth of international holding companies owned by Venezuelan businessmen. Smartmatic Group NV of Curaçao, Netherlands, Antilles owns Smartmatic International BV of Amsterdam, Netherlands, owns Smartmatic Corporation of Florida, which bought Sequoia Voting Systems of California, USA. When Smartmatic bought the U.S. voting machine companies, the U.S. government did not review the sale. Many experts say those voting machines were manipulated in Venezuela to give President Hugo Chavez a victory. Exit polls done by the U.S. firm Penn, Schoen, and Berland had Chavez losing 41% to 59%. But the next day, Chavez declared victory, reversing the score, saying he won 59% of the vote.
Everything was computed in the favor of the government. So the only explanation is that the Smartmatic machines had been programmed in that way.
A Harvard mathematician crunched the numbers on the Venezuelan election.
It had to be the Smartmatic system. All these machines talk to a central computer and report on their results. And in that mechanism, as they communicate with the central machine can report anything.
Smartmatic is technically based in Boca Raton, Florida, but the president of the company, Jack Blaine, testified to the Chicago City Council. Fewer than a dozen Smartmatic employees work in Florida. The majority of the workers are based in Venezuela.
Okay, so it gives you a little bit of a history of what Smartmatic is, and you're saying, how does Smartmatic, how does that connect to Sherburne County and Dominion voting machines? Smartmatic and Sequoia voting systems in 2005, using the proceeds from the windfall of the Venezuelan Smartmatic purchase, the much larger and well-established American company Sequoia Pacific Corporation, who is at voting systems certified, expanded and grew rapidly. And in June of 2010, Dominion Voting Systems acquired physical and intellectual assets of Sequoia Voting Systems, including retention of technical and sales staff. So,
Your 3 minutes are up, sir.
I don't think that. This was 2 minutes. I'm sorry, I don't want to say that. The video was 2
We
minutes.
sir, we both time it, so
Okay.
it's 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I have some literature here regarding the Dominion voting systems. So
Sir,
I
if you
would-
want to give that to the clerk,
Yeah,
that would be
you
great.
just,
Thank you.
Read that, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Terry Dickinson speaking with an invitation.
Good morning. I am here to invite you on Thursday, May 17th from 7 to 9 p.m. to Shoreview for a Midwest Swamp Watch presentation. I've invited you many times. Please come this time and get the information regarding the Dominion voting system and our current election system. We have huge problems. We're packed again. We would like a public hearing. We want you to come and get the information. We're offering it again and again and again. It's our time, it's our money. We're trying to help our own community by giving you the information. Also, Rayanne Danielowski, my commissioner, said she would, I'm Terry Dickinson, give us a public hearing. One of you has to agree to support it. Felix, you're on your way out. Would you please support a public hearing for us, please?
Terry, you're not supposed to address commissioners individually.
Sorry, didn't mean to do that.
He's correct.
Anyway, May 25th is also a workshop given by the City of Big Lake. Diane Arnold will be there presenting hers. Rick Weibel will be there presenting ours. Please come. It's another opportunity. One session is really not enough. Also, just regarding all this other stuff going on, any law or treaty that is not in pursuance with the United States Constitution is illegitimate and unenforceable. So it doesn't matter what's coming down the pike. If it's not in agreement with our Constitution, it's not enforceable. So if you think that a treaty can remove our liberties, it's wrong. Please start studying the U.S. Constitution and the Minnesota Constitution, because we're hearing what's coming down the pike. So please come to the Midwest Swamp Watch. It talks about the unconstitutional consent decrees, which the counties followed. It was in violation of state statutes, like those drop boxes. Those broke the chain of custody. Those are not acceptable. Also, he talks all about the Dominion machines. So here's your invitation. Thank you.
Terry, just to clarify, you said May 17th. You meant May 19th, right? Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
19th.
And so our last person?
Our last speaker is Steve Nelson, speaking on finances.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm here. I mentioned last time I'm a business owner. I really don't have time for this. I know you guys don't have time for this. We're all chasing this thing around right now. Me personally, I go out on the weekends and canvass. I attend teleconferences and Zoom meetings with this group so that I can hear what's going on in the state. It's very disturbing. And I don't have a solution for you, but what I can tell you is it's a problem. In our canvases here in Sherburne County, we have 14% irregularities, and this is talking to the wonderful people here, where they've had a problem. They've either received a ballot that they didn't ask for, a ballot wasn't registered, or their vote was registered differently than they presented. One kid, the first-time voter, voted absentee with his family, but his ballot was registered as an in-person ballot. Do we know that that in-person ballot was a legitimate ballot, or was his absentee ballot with his family, first-time voting, the one that was counted? We don't know. I've seen an affidavit, I'm sorry I don't have it here, from an election worker up in Princeton. And granted, it was only 47 votes, I think, and there were 4 overvotes that the machine counted. So they collected, 4 less ballots, but the machine counted more votes. You know, these machines will do what we tell them to do. They do what they're programmed to do, and we're finding these anomalies in them. I gave you a report the last time I was here with Tennessee. A very similar incident just occurred reported in Nevada, where the machine stopped counting votes and started putting the rest of the ballots to adjudication. So there's a problem. I don't know what to tell you or how to fix it. We need to be able to see machines. We need to be able to see other things. And even if anybody's been following the 2,000 Mules, we see about the ballot stuffing that's gone on. If we didn't have video records, the laws are saying that you can only turn in so many ballots, and people are sitting there putting 10, 15 ballots in at one time in the middle of the night. They tracked it with phone records. So we don't know. On the financing, side just quickly. We've got $208,000 to put towards our voting stuff, and maybe we're going to address that today. I noticed that it costs us about $25,000 more to run an election now since we've adopted the machines versus before. I don't understand
Your
that.
3 minutes are up, sir.
Because every time I've implemented software, it costs me less.
Steve, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So now we can move on to our regular agenda. And we'll start with item 1, which is to consider a proclamation of May 2022 at Foster Care Month and receive the announcement of award winners. And Megan is here.
Good morning. I have the very easy job of just introducing the people who are going to talk. So we have our supervisor of our licensing and intake unit, Julie Milsna, and our lead worker, Mitch Fennell, who are going to give the awards and talk about it.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and County Commissioners. My name is Julie Milsna, and I am the Licensing and Intake Supervisor. Thank you for having us here this morning as we share our proclamation and acknowledge, honor, and recognize our Foster Care Award recipients. I would like to share our proclamation and ask that the board accept and recognize May to be Foster Care Month. Proclamation. Whereas the family serving as a primary source of love, identity, self-esteem, and support is the very foundation of our communities. Whereas foster care provides children, youth, and adults with a safe, secure, and stable home, along with compassion and nurturing from the foster family. Whereas child foster care providers open their home and hearts and give hope to children whose families are in crisis, playing a vital role in helping children and families heal and reconnect and launch children into successful adulthood. Whereas grandparents, aunts, uncles, and other close family members and relative caregivers also have an important role in providing normalcy, stability, and family connections to their kin who are not able to remain with their biological parents. Whereas adult foster care providers have opened their homes and hearts to adults unable to remain living on their own safely, playing a vital role in offering a safe and supportive community alternative to institutional care. Whereas numerous individuals in public and private organizations work to support the Sherburne County foster care program and increase public awareness, our foster care system is only as good as those who choose to be a part of it. Now, therefore, the County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim that May 2022 as Foster Care Month in Sherburne County and call upon all citizens, community agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increase their awareness and understanding of children and adult foster care. Thank you. And now the fun stuff. Before we share our awards, I just wanted to say thank you to our licensing social workers for working diligently to recruit, educate, support, and walk this journey with our wonderful foster care providers. Each May, we take time to recognize the challenging but rewarding work and honor those that go over and beyond for the children, youth, and adults in our community. Today, we celebrate our providers who make a meaningful difference in the lives of many. We honor your commitment, dedication, and unconditional love to children, youth, and adults in Sherburne County. We wanted to say thank you to our providers for accepting our calls in the middle of the night and opening your home to those who have been removed from unsafe environments. Thank you for meeting the needs of children, youth, and adults who require medical teams and professionals to come into your home to ensure that their needs are being met. Thank you for embracing children and their parents, serving as a role model and an educator, while providing emotional support and stability until reunification can occur. You are the quiet cheerleaders on the sidelines, but we see you, hear you, and appreciate you. And thank you to the children, youth, and adults whom we serve. You are the true meaning of strength and resilience, and today we honor you. This morning, we have 3 awards that we would like to present. Our Child Foster Care Provider of the Year, Adult Foster Care Provider of the Year, and Foster Child of the Year. I'm now going to turn this over to Mitch Fennell, our lead licensing social worker, who will present our first award.
Good morning, Commissioners and members of the board. I am here to present the 2022 winner for Child Foster Care. This year's winners are Maylee and Peter Sore. They were nominated by Jordan Ranking, one of our social workers. Maylee and Peter have been licensed for child foster care in Sherburne County since 2017. They are wonderful providers for children with complex medical needs. Maylee herself is an RN and has an amazing ability to provide children with the care they require and deserve. Maylee and Peter ensure the children in their care are always involved in programming available to them and are wonderful advocates on their behalf. With the recent nursing and staffing shortages that have occurred, it has been very difficult to find reliable care and respite for families who are providing care for children with underlying medical conditions. Currently, the Sores only have a few hours a week in which they are provided respite and others coming into their home to help provide care for the 2 children. Maylee and Peter have made every effort to ensure the children's needs are being met and are doing a wonderful job of also supporting one another. Maylee is always thinking of ways to better engage the children and be adaptive to their needs. And the Sores are always aware of the children's limitations, but strive to progress them in all areas of life. If you ask Maylee how she's holding up, she will always reply with a smile and states she's living her dream. The Sores are always positive, even in the most difficult of times, and we always need more providers like them.
We just want to say thank you. We love it. So,
Thank you.
Sherburne County has been amazing to work with. Everyone is great. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Over the past 15 years, I've had the pleasure of working with Mike and Marnie Whipper, who own At the Lake Adult Care. They have welcomed several of my clients into their home and provided a stable and supportive environment for them. They not only recognize and meet the needs of those placed in their care, but go above and beyond to make them part of their family. My clients and their families have also spoken very, very highly of the care, staff, accommodations, and meals. Mike and Marnie have worked with some challenging clients and families over the years. They are very patient and understanding. This includes clients with significant memory loss, high medical needs, complicated family dynamics, and some without family involvement, putting more responsibility on them as providers. Marnie is great at communicating with case managers any changes or asking for assistance in obtaining equipment or supplies that would make cares easier or benefit clients and their level of independence. Marnie's background as a nurse is also very beneficial to clients, as she is very knowledgeable with medical conditions and how to navigate the medical system. Mike's personality keeps the home upbeat and the clients laughing. I often hear him joking and giving those in the home a hard time when I've been there. The Whippers are particular about the staff they hire to assist in their home, and I've always been very impressed with the care I've seen by the caregivers and how personable they are. These staff also have been instrumental in getting the clients out in the community to the Price is Right, flower gardens, lunch outings, shopping, and holiday programs. The Whippers maintain a very clean home and gorgeous outdoor space for clients to enjoy. They also have pets that are a great emotional support and companions to the clients. Sherburne County is very lucky to have the Whippers providing care to our clients. I would 100% refer any of my clients and my own family members to their adult foster home. They provide excellent care in a very family-like setting. Thank you, Mike and Marnie.
I understand I only have 30 minutes. I'd just like to say we couldn't have done this without people like Krista, Carrie, The people that we worked with the last 16 years just done a phenomenal job with us. And it's been a pleasure working with Sherburne County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Kelly Schmidt, and I am the social worker for this year's Foster Child of the Year. Sarah is a bright, caring, and hardworking youth. When she first entered care, she was in fight or flight mode, often on the run and at odds with those who were trying to help her. During placement, she took time to reflect on the trauma she had survived, build gratitude for the beautiful things in her life, and set meaningful goals for herself and her future. She went from being behind in school to overcoming learning challenging and graduating early. She worked to create boundaries from negative peers so that she could thrive outside of their influence. She has held on to her sobriety. She found healing inside herself and within the invaluable relationships with the family who love her. As she prepared to transition back home, her mom underwent emergency surgery, having 2 major organs replaced. Sarah stepped in, never leaving her mom's side. Her parents report that they do not know how they would have survived that time without her caring for her mother and maintaining the family home. During this time, Sarah also secured employment and began contributing to the family, such as filling the car with gas and helping with groceries. At our recent Youth in Transition meeting, Sarah's family described her as kind, loving, funny, and incredibly responsible. Everyone expressed how proud they were of the young woman she has become. This worker could not agree more. She is incredible. She has taken every opportunity afforded to her and turned it into something positive and wonderful. Sarah is certainly worthy of nomination for Foster Child of the Year.
And a young lady of few words. Thank you. Congratulations. That's all that counts.
If our award winners, once we're done, the board may want to say a few words, but if the award winners would be willing to join us in the lobby afterwards, we'd like to get a couple pictures, and the media would as well if you're comfortable. With that, commissioners, did you want to jump in and say any words?
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to thank all of our providers, and this is one of my favorite meetings of the year, to recognize these providers. And I shared this last week at a conference that I was at in the cities, that you don't realize how vital these services are in these households until you experience it personally. And I have a family member who needed a situation in another county, and he's in a household right now. And I've said that these people have been angels in our life because, I mean, we could have brought him to a different county and had him come in, but this family stepped forward. And every time I connect with them, I realize there's angels. So I really want to thank each of the providers for choosing to do this work. It's vital in our communities, and it's so important for those individuals and families. So thank you.
And I could not agree more, definitely, and so proud of all of our staff and how they reach out and they connect with everybody that needs something in their life at some time, and that could be any of us at any time. So thank you so much for all that you do. You provide something that goes above and beyond, so thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Well, I'll just add, you people are the unsung heroes of Sherburne County. Nobody recognizes you on the street. No one knows what you're doing, but what you're doing is critically important to this county. So, thank you.
With that, I'll go out and take some photos, and maybe if you just want to take a minute, we'll get everybody settled.
resume our meeting. And, what did you want to make?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to move the acceptance of the proclamation.
Do you want to put your microphone on?
Now
We're going
everyone
to
can
restart
hear
the
me.
meeting. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move the acceptance of the proclamation for May 2022 as Foster Care Month.
I'll second.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve by proclamation the declaration of May 2022 as Foster Care Month. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Okay, that was a wonderful presentation.
Are they related to the Palmer one?
So now we can move on to considering item number 2, which is to consider approval of preliminary residential standard plat of Suburban Refuge with Suburban Builders Incorporated. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Looking for a motion to approve a request for a standard preliminary plat proposed by Curtis Bechtold of Suburban Builders. The proposed plat is located in Section 19 of Baldwin Township on 28 acres and consists of 8 lots. The Planning Commission recommended approval at the April 21st meeting with the 6 listed conditions. Thank you.
I'll move approval with the 6 conditions.
Motion's been made to approve the request with 6 conditions. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion is passed. Thank you. And now we can move on to item number 3, which is to consider the ARPA update and recommended approvals and expenditures.
Good morning, Commissioners. This week, we just have one biweekly approval under the $50,000 threshold, and it's for $8,264, and information was included in your packet.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the expense.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the expenses for under $50,000. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
And we do have 2 IT expenses that are over that $50,000 threshold, so I'll invite Brian Kamen up here to discuss those.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. We have 2 requests for different funding sources under ARPA for IT, both of which are infrastructure related. The first of which is a new back-end storage system for our law enforcement agencies to be using, and the second of which is a major update to the backbone of our core network. And those are the 2 requests in front of you.
Madam Chair, Brian, are these hardware type?
Yes, both of which are hardware devices.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to approve those expenditures for the IT department.
So that's for the one CJIS data storage?
Yep, the 173,687 and the 61,058.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, just a quick question, formality. Do we need 2 separate motions for those 2 items, or can we adopt them into one?
You can combine them into one motion.
Okay.
Okay, so we've already have a motion for this CJIS data.
Rhiann had both in her motion.
And the core network.
Oh, okay, sorry. So we have a motion to approve both of these items. Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board.
Thank you, Brian.
And we do have one additional community resource investment grant that staff is recommending for approval. That'd be for the Elk River School District. I did transpose the last 2 digits, so it should be $81,492.
492, okay.
I'll move approval.
Motion's been made to approve the Elk River School District's request for investment grant update. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
And just, just a point of clarity, I mean, our charge with the federal government when this money comes in is to get it out to the community. School districts did not receive this money directly. It comes through us. So it seems a little odd for us to be funding school district things, but the way this has worked with this COVID money and that sort of thing has been this way. So just so that's understood by.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying
Just so
that.
you can clarify that I'm understanding it. Please.
Well, it's also good clarification for the viewing public.
Yeah, and to your point, the CARES funding, there were, school districts did have direct money from the CARES program, but we still partnered with them because there were other things that money didn't fund. In this particular case, the ARPA funding is really our pot, not theirs, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us and our constituents to remember, anytime there's federal money, every state runs counties, school districts, and cities a little bit different. So when it's coming down from the federal government, we always got to tailor it, and it doesn't directly fit any one state usually. So there are states where the school districts in the county are one and the same essentially. So thanks for that clarification, Felix.
And a lot of these programs through the schools that we're helping assist with are geared towards the mental health of the students and their well-being after having gone through what they've gone through for the last couple of years with COVID and shutdowns and stuff. So it is important to help fund those programs.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
And just a quick update, we are still reviewing 2 other organizational applications. One is Promise Neighborhood, I know that was included, and the other is the Wave. So we're discussing those internally, and we'll bring a recommendation forward in one of the next 2 meetings.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we can move on to item number 4, which is an update on Sherburne County preparation for the 2022 elections.
Good morning, Madam Chairman.
Morning.
And Commissioners. Thank you. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. Hopefully this is coming across. You can hear it.
Perfect.
Thank you. We're getting ready for the 2022 election season, which actually started back in December of 21. So staff and I have completed the training at the state's election administrators training week that we had there that was held with the Secretary of State's office. That was held April 19th through the 22nd. We are currently in the process of reviewing our election judge training material for any updates that may need to be made. And then when those are ready, we'll be sending out an email to those that have signed up for the online election judge trainings. And once they have completed successfully the training, then certificates will be sent out, which are good for 2 years. So on the 15th of May, my office received a listing from the Secretary of State's office of people that have signed up to become election judges from the respective parties. The list is going to be dispersed out today to each of the city and townships clerks within Sherburne County to pull the election judges from that listing. Each precinct must have party balance of the election judges that are working on election day for any of the state or federal elections. We have encouraged your regular election judges to sign up with the party of their choice so that their name will be included on the list, from which the townships and cities will first pull to make recommendations to their city councils and township boards. So that'll be voted on at one of their regular meetings, either in May or in June. So it's dependent upon their schedule. We also have an election judge sign-up form on our website, which is under the election judges. And I believe currently we've got some that have signed up for that. So that's great. And if those election judges that have agreed to become election judges are on that list but have not taken the election judge training to be certified, then from there they can select others who have and who are certified while still maintaining the party balance within their precinct. So at least 2 judges must be represented the different major political parties, and no more than one half of the judges can be from the same major political party. This does not apply to standalone school district or township elections. Those are the only two that are different, that do not have that requirement in statute. I also wanted to provide you some information about our Dominion election equipment and our processes that are done to assure that we have accurate and correct tabulation of the votes being submitted to the Secretary of State's office on election night. There's been an onslaught of accusations about the equipment, and I'd like to give you some information that you may not be aware of. First of all, the election equipment that we have, the Dominion tabulators, have been federally approved through the Election Assistance Commission, or the EAC, and then tested and approved by our Minnesota State Election Department before we would even be able to submit to them a request for proposal, which was done in 2015. Anytime there's a change to the election equipment, it must go through that testing before any changes can be made to the election equipment that we have. That goes for the same for any other type of election equipment, whether it's ES&S, Hart, or Dominion. Before each election, the tabulators are checked for accuracy by running a test deck of predetermined ballots and vote totals through each of the program cards that tabulate the ballots by my office and trained election staff, and this is done ahead of the public accuracy test. Then there's a public accuracy test that is performed just before the election, which is publicly announced and is posted in the paper for each city, township, and when the county is also going to be conducting the public accuracy test on the election equipment and the program cards that are used on election day. The totals of each of the ballot styles are then verified by 2 election judges of different political parties for accuracy. Once that is done, those result tapes are saved with the test deck for each precinct. The 2 election judges then clear the memory card and the test results in the tabulator and seal the cards into the tabulator. That will be used on election day. So the first thing the election judges do is to run a zeros tape just prior to 7 a.m. when the polls open, so that they're ready for the first voters. This tape is left on and not torn off, and is included with the first summary tape that is ran at the end of the night with end of election night with all the vote totals on. This shows that there were no votes on the tabulator and reflects the correct day, time, and the races on the ballot for that precinct. After voting has been completed for the day after 8 p.m., the election judges will close the polls. They run a summary tape to which they must balance the number of the voter signature slips, the number indicated on the poll pad, to the number of actual ballots in the tabulator, which are paper ballots, to the count on the tabulator. They must also record any spoiled ballots, the total number of ballots received, the number of new registrants for EDRs, and note that on the summary tape. They also have to record any write-in votes for any offices from county commissioner races on up if they have registered with the Secretary of State's office prior to election day. All of this has to be balanced and signed off on the summary tape that's off from the tabulator by election judges, again, of different political parties. This is all done prior to transmitting the results to the county. So before they do that, the election judges will insert the modem to transmit the results to the county. With each election year, I get new numbers for each of the modems for Verizon, and they are only activated during the election period, and then they're canceled after each general election. The data is encrypted that is sent. So when the election judges transmits the results to the county, that comes into a secure election server that is not on the county's main server site, nor in the cloud. The judges get a confirmation that the results have been transmitted successfully. They then call my office to confirm that we have gotten them. Once we do, and we say, yes, we got the results, those results are then added to the absentee ballot totals for that precinct that were scanned in at the county and uploaded to the Secretary of State's election portal. When the township or the city election judges, then they turn off the tabulator, pull the modem and the memory cards, place them into a metal transfer case along with the signed summary tapes, and that is then sealed and initialed by the election judges, again by different political parties. And the ballots are sealed in the ballot boxes with the seals, numbers recorded and initialed by the election judges, again by different political parties. It is all locked up either at the city or the township location until they are brought into the county at the next morning. The election judges have 24 hours in which to bring all the voted ballots and unvoted ballot supplies and poll pads back to the auditor's office to be checked in the following morning. They are to be delivered by 2 election judges of different political parties. The tabulators are returned and stored at the History Center in Becker in a climate-controlled environment. No one has access to the election equipment at the History Center except certain History Center staff. Only myself or my election manager or chief deputy can call to make an appointment to check on the tabulators with the History Center. The tabulators are secured in the vault that has card key access only, and only when the History Center staff have been notified that city or township officials are picking up equipment, then the cases are wheeled out to them when they arrive, and when they're dropped back off, they're taken into the secured area by the history staff. I get a listing from the History Center as to which machines are there, and we do periodic checks for insurance purposes and that they are there and accounted for. So when my office receives the summary tapes from the townships and the cities that following day, there are 2 staff that are verifying the totals on the summary tapes that were transmitted to comparing to the totals that have been reported to the Secretary of State's office. Once every precinct is verified, to assure the results are reported correctly, a report is run called an abstract of votes cast for, which reports the votes cast for each candidate in each race by precinct. It gives the number of accepted regular, military, and overseas absentee ballots and mail ballots, and the federal-only absentee ballots and the presidential-only absentee ballots. It also gives the number of persons registered as of 7 a.m., the number of that registered on election day, and the total number of persons voting. This is then presented to the canvassing board to canvass the results, which are reviewed and signed by each canvassing board member. Once we have certified the results, it's then sent by U.S. Post Office overnight delivery to the state election department. The canvassing board also at that time randomly selects from all the precinct names that are placed in a bowl 3 precincts that are randomly drawn to have those ballots hand counted at the public equipment review meeting that we have. So that's going to be a meeting and a count of the ballots by hand so that we assure that the election tabulators on the whole, how accurate they counted the votes for the races that were determined by the worksheets that are filled out from the Secretary of State's office from what was reported on election night. This past election in 2020, we hand counted 7 precincts due to the senator's race in District 14 that was close, 4 precincts for Senate 14, and 3 of the randomly pulled precincts. The reports from each of those hand counts were tabulated and reported that the equipment totaled the correct number of votes for each candidate that was reported on election night. Those reports were signed off on by the election judges, again, by different political parties who are doing the counting. And, okay, where am I? Lost my place. And then during the hand counting, and that is attested either by myself or my election manager and sent to the election department at the Secretary of State's office. So publicly funded recounts happen when a difference between the votes is cast less than 0.5% for state legislative offices or 1/4 of 1% for statewide federal offices, state constitutional office, or a statewide judicial office, or the total number of votes counted for that office is 10 votes or less, and the total number of votes cast is 400 or less. There will be a manual recount of the votes upon a written request from the candidate whose nomination or election is in question. If the total difference is ever over those amounts, a losing candidate whose name was on the ballot can request a manual recount at the losing candidate's expense. When the vote difference is greater than the percent or numbers of votes cast noted in Minnesota Statutes 204C.35, the contest of elections notice must be filed with the clerk of the district court of the county within 7 days after the canvassing board declares the results of a general or special election, or within 5 days for the primary. The sealed election ballots are kept in a locked, secured room for 22 months which is the retention period for the election ballots and the summary tapes. All of our current election equipment will be updated with the most recent certified versions for D Suite 5.5-C for the 2022 election year, and our current server is being replaced with a new certified version as well. This is all happening at the end of this month, so then we'll be ready for testing for the primary election come August 9th. That was a lot to go through.
Are there any
Do
questions?
you have any questions?
Diane, at any time, these are all public opportunities
Correct.
for the public to come in and watch the
Yes.
process.
The public accuracy test is published in the paper. It is a public, public can come in and view, and which people have come in. And also for the peer review, the hand counting of the ballots for the three precincts that were selected, that is also public. That is also published in the newspaper and on our website for people. If they want to come in and watch that, they certainly can.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Dan, I'm sure that you have a copy of what you have just read to us that could be
Yes.
shared with anyone who.
Yep, and I also gave a copy to Keisha.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
And the machine that is in each precinct is acting as a tabulator at
Correct.
that time?
They are a tabulator. They are not connected to the internet like some people think they are. It's been said that they're connected to the internet. They are not connected to the internet at all during election day when from 7 o'clock in the morning till after 8 o'clock at night. They are not connected.
And what, how many different machine businesses or voting machines are
Certified?
yes,
Okay.
and usable in the state?
In the state, so currently in the state of Minnesota, we have, the state has certified 3 different companies for their election equipment, which is ES&S, Minion, and Hart is the other one.
Madam Chair.
Okay.
You know, I'd like to thank Diane for going through that. I think, you know, recently we've had a lot of questions, a lot of open forum talk, and a lot of public pushback around voting machines and things of that nature. And I just want to go on record and say that, you know, as complex as the system is, there's no perfect system. But I have the utmost confidence in the way Sherburne County, your office, and our election officials that put these on year in and year out handle everything. I think our record kind of speaks for itself. We've had a lot of we've had a lot of close elections, both at the county level, down to the city and township level, and every time there's an audit, you know, it comes back saying what it should. And I think, you know, for the general public, it's real easy to take a big event and a big string of process and isolate one piece out of it and say this piece isn't working. But when you take the totality of everything and you look at all the checks and balances in place, I think that everybody can have an amount of confidence in that system, so thank you.
Thank you. We work our best to make sure everything is reported correctly and done right.
And I also want to say that I think the education piece and the understanding of how the process works, I think sometimes that we just kind of take for granted. So I appreciate your time and energy to pull all this together, working on questions that are coming from the public as well. We are all charged with making sure that we're listening, we're hearing, and doing what we can when we can. So I just wanted to make sure that we have that opportunity, because everybody deserves to be recognized and listened to. So I just want to make sure that is something that we're trying to work towards doing. And having been involved in the process and having been involved with a lot of the clerks and the public that gets involved. Because without them, it makes it harder. So I just want to make sure that we're working our best to educate and also make sure that we are working our best to solve any issues when they are there.
And I concur with Commissioner Dolan that I want to thank Diane and your office for all the work that you do and this attempt at educating the public on how complex the process is to have clean elections in your county. And I didn't realize this, but last week when I was at a statewide meeting, some of us commissioners were comparing notes, and I guess it's not the Dominion machines. That's the topic in our county, but I realize that people are going to other counties pretty much questioning all the machines. So it's kind of the process of elections in general, and in this county, it seems to be the Dominion machines, but our neighbors right next door in Wright County don't use Dominion machines, and they are also being challenged. So I think it's a bigger issue than just the Dominion machines, and I appreciate the education and any chance that we have to educate our public on all the steps we go through to have fair and reasonable elections, because that's really important. So
Thank you. I would also like to note that working from the direction from the board previously, from the last meeting, is that we have updated a FAQ section in our elections so that people can get more information there, and hopefully we've provided good information for them on the questions that they may have. We've got additional information that is on our website under elections. So adding stuff to there that we can help for clarity for, our citizens and our voters.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I appreciate the report, Diane. I think that, I don't think that the question has ever been your staff or your personal integrity from any of the people that have been involved with questioning this. I think we need to make sure that our own house is in order, and I feel that it is. I feel that you and your staff have done a good job, but I also think that we need to try to keep an open mind and continue to listen to others that have questions about the entirety of our election system. And I just think that it's respectful that we maintain that and we continue to have dialogue with them as we move forward here.
Madam Chair, and I'll piggyback on that too. And I think Felix is right, and kind of his earlier comments and making this available for other people. I think, it's easy to get caught up, us as elected officials that deal with all of these different things day in and day out, staff that deals with it day in and day out. Sometimes we don't articulate as many details as we maybe should because we take some of it for granted. But I think putting it out there into the public so people understand that there's nothing that's being hidden, everything's open and transparent, and there's all these different opportunities for the public to be involved is really important. So I think Felix hit the nail on the head. We're confident in our system here, but we do need to continue to keep our ears open and be aware of what's going on around us as well.
And Madam Chair, I also think that when we are talking about, because I think it's been an education process.
Okay.
All right, and then I just wanted to draw your attention to an opportunity through SHAC coming up next month. If you have an interest in learning more about the Department of Health, it is open to any commissioner or any local official, any public health person, June 8th. So if that's something you're interested in participating in, you can facilitate an email to the state, or I can assist with that. But they really walk through the procedures at the Department of Health and some of the main positions and divisions and what their roles are. And then our next SHAC meeting is June 9th. That does have a hybrid option as well. And then I'm going to do a really quick overview of the county health rankings. Those were released this spring. Sherburne County continues to remain in the top throughout our state for one of the healthiest counties. So number 10 out of 87, and we were 11 last year. There's a lot of extra information on the County Health Rankings website if you want to look at that. did pull out just a few highlights of what those factors that they rate us on are. So there's those health outcomes and length of life and your quality of life, and then some health factors, which healthy behaviors, clinical care, your social and economic factors, and physical environment. Again, we do really well in those health outcomes. What changed is a little bit of length of life, and by no one's surprise with COVID and the increased deaths that we had, this really affected everyone in the state, but we were not hit as hard as some counties were. And for health factors, again, in the top percentile again. Certainly most saw a change in the number of primary care physicians, so we decreased as well. And then preventable hospital stays was significantly changed in this last year. So overall, many of our factors stayed the same, but these were a few that stood out and really stood out for most counties in Minnesota.
Can I ask a question? The primary care physician going down, have they been replaced with nurse practitioners or physician assistants, or is there just less resources?
I believe there's less primary care, although there are some incentives for physician assistants, nurse practitioners, so I expect that we'll see those rise. And I know that programs are very competitive to get in, so there's been a lot of discussion about that and tuition reimbursement. I think overall we are lower, but we have a good mix here in Minnesota of a lot of those different disciplines.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and that is the end for my section, and then I have Peggy come up, and hers actually, yep, right there.
Hi, I'm Peggy Sammons. I'm the Public Health Planner, and I'm going to share with you today some information about our Community Health Improvement Plan. It's a 3-year plan. It'll start July 1st of 2022, go through June 30th of 2025. And we'll be asking you to approve this plan today. Okay, next. The agenda of my discussion today is Sherburne County is a member of the Central Minnesota Alliance, so I'm going to share with you a little bit about the CMA. Then I'll talk about our legal requirements, our legal documents, our description of the planning framework that we use to complete our document, and then the main objects of our document of our priority areas, guiding principles, the drivers of inequities or root causes of inequities, and the goals and action steps that we're proposing in our plan, and then a brief next steps. So the membership of the Central Minnesota Alliance is the local public health divisions of Benton, Sherburne, and Stearns County, and CentraCare. The vision for our Central Minnesota Alliance is, in Central Minnesota, every voice counts, every need is important, every culture respected, and everyone is involved in building a better community life with equitable services for all. The internal structure of the Central Minnesota Alliance is we primarily have a leadership group, and we have a process manager where we have membership from all 4 of our members on the process managers, kind of keep everything going. And then we have 3 committees, context, status, and partners. That may change as we move through our process, but currently we just have the 3 committees. The legal requirements primarily differ with time frame. So the health system is governed by an IRS law, and they have a 3-year requirement, and public health is governed by the Local Public Health Act, and we have a 5-year requirement. The documents are same for both of the laws. We conduct a community health needs assessment or a community health assessment. You might hear it referred to as a CHINA or a CHA. And that guides the CHIP, the Community Health Improvement Plan, and that's what we're talking about today. The framework that we use to conduct our work to complete the CHIP is Mobilizing for Action Through Planning and Partnership. It's called MAP, and it's a product of the National Association of City and County Health Officials, or NACHO. It's a community-driven strategic planning process. We used this as the Central Minnesota Alliance in 2019, and NACHO went through a revision process, and we really liked where they were going with the revision, so we decided to continue with their product. And we have used a similar process in 2022, but this map evolution, the revision of it has a little bit of a less structure and allows for fluidity of working with the community. So the primary components of it are to build upon the infrastructure you have in community health improvement, tell the community story, and we conducted 3 assessments for that work in this previous year, and then continuously improve communities' health. Oop. So building upon our current infrastructure, so in 2019, the process that we conducted, we identified our top priority, our top community priorities, and we focused in on those 2 top ones using a priority process, and those are building families and mental health, and we identified as a collaborative that we wanted to continue focusing on those. And we'll also continue using our guiding principles of community collaboration, using an equity lens, focusing on the resilience of our community, building awareness, providing education and information, and then involving our health organizations. As I mentioned, we used 3 assessments in the 22 process to tell the community story and identify where we wanted to focus our efforts in the next 3 years. So we conducted the status assessment, which is kind of the number assessment, a context assessment, and partners, talking about partners and collaborating with our partners and seeing like where are the challenges, where do we want to focus, and that kind of where all of those intersect in the middle, that's the community story, that's where we want to focus. And we identified 4 primary drivers of inequities where we want to focus. We want to look at data access and technology systems, structural racism, particularly as it pertains to community power, lived experiences, perceptions, insights, values, and culture of all persons within our counties, and historical context of how we all got here and live here together today. So these are really root cause places where we want to work, and I wanted to share with you through our assessment process where we wanted to, the long term, where we really want to get to focusing on these areas are, we want public policies to be using an equity lens to impact disparities. We want all people to have access to broadband. We'd really like all of our community members to be able to influence agenda setting, resource distribution, and be included in processes in general. And then in terms of the lived experience and historical context, we'd really like our systems, and we consider government and the healthcare system as systems. We want those systems in general to really recognize the strengths and assets of all people in our counties and communicate and engage with all people in our communities, and then hear what they're saying their needs are and focus on those needs that they identify. That's kind of the long-term goals of this work. So once we identified the big focus areas of inequities, we wanted to identify goals and action steps. So the process we used for that was we brainstormed goals and action steps, then we prioritized all of those goals, and then our intention was to have one goal for each of the driver to put into the written document. We also had a comment period using an electronic feedback survey that was available from April 6th through May 13th. So I'm going to walk through the 5 goals with action steps with you. So we actually have 2 goals for the data access and systems area. We can really keep to our intention of 1, but I think we did pretty good. So the goal 1 is develop data visuals coordinated with National Recognition Months. So the action steps outlined under this goal are to provide local data with an equity focus to community when they're most likely expecting to get data on those topics. And the measure that we're going to use to track this is to track views and then adjust our practice to increase views and use of the data, because we want people to be having access to and using the data. Data access and systems goal 2 is to increase access to broadband across our 3-county region. And the action steps of this goal outline support, awareness, and expansion of existing work. And our measure is to increase the use of broadband in locations where there's currently limited availability. For our structural racism and community power goal 1, we want to create and build upon human resource toolkits regarding diverse workforce recruitment, implementation, and support. And we want to make sure that those toolkits are widely accessible. The action steps of this goal support the current human resource work that has already taken place in the community and want to showcase Black, Indigenous, and persons of color or BIPOC experiences. And the measure for this goal is to identify the number of agencies that we're aware of utilizing strategies to recruit a diverse workforce. The lived experience goal, we don't want to stop on that one. The lived experience goal is to create and build upon what creates health campaigns. So the action steps within this goal are to include using personal stories of people within our 3-county area to show how the space around us influences our health. The measure we want to use to track this goal is to track the number of culturally and linguistically appropriate methods used to gather the information and provide it back out to the community. And the historical context goal is to encourage all agencies to adopt land acknowledgements. And this is in the broad sense of not just acknowledging the land on which we live, but how did we all come here together and talk about the legacies of the violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that has taken place in our space. And the action steps in this goal include engaging with tribal leaders, Black Americans, generational farmers, etc. And this is a policy-related measure in that we would encourage agencies to create their land acknowledgement, but also have a use plan for that. And we would be tracking the number of agencies implementing their use plan of their land acknowledgement statement. So just as a reminder or a review, the 4 areas, these are the big bucket, really the places where we want to focus. The goals and activity action steps may change, but this is really where we want to focus on data access and systems, structural racism, particularly as it pertains to community power, the lived experience, and the historical context of the people in our space. So the next steps as it pertains to this chip is, so May 17th, today, through June 30th, we're taking this chip to all of our respective boards, requesting approval of the document. Then in June 30th, the health system will submit this to their governing body. And then July 1st through July 1st of 2022 of this year through June 30th of 2025, that's the 3-year implementation phase. So that's when we'll be doing this work and digging into it. And it'll be a living document and we will make changes as appropriate. And then in terms of public health, we do have annual reporting that's required. And our next required plan cycle is 2020 through 2024. And we'll need to submit our document, so it will be the next one that we'll have 3/31 of 2025. And that's what we have today, so thank you.
Madam Chair, just a logistical thing. If we're going to ask for approval of the board, we should probably amend the Community Health Board agenda and add an item 8.4 because the only item we have was to receive the Health Service Administrator's bi-monthly report. We didn't have a specific item on that. So you do want approval today, is that right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So if the board's amenable, we should have a motion to amend the Community Health Board agenda to add item 8.4, which is to consider approval of, what title do you want?
The Community Health Improvement Plan.
Okay, so consider improvement of the Community Health Improvement Plan.
Do we need a separate motion or the motion makers?
I would move to just amend the agenda.
All right, Madam Chair, I'll make that motion to amend the agenda as requested.
So it'd be item 8.4, consider approval of the Community Health Improvement Plan.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. So now we're added to the agenda. Now we have.
Now you can actually consider approval of the actual plan. So there could be a motion and a second to approve it and then discussion.
Okay, does anyone like to make a motion to consider the request for
Madam Chair,
the
this
health
is a little
improvement
bit
plan?
of an awkward way for us to be handling this. Are we being appropriate in doing it this way? I don't see it as being a controversial.
No, that's why I wanted you
There
to
was.
amend the agenda.
Be really pretty significant what we're doing. So
Correct, yeah, and that's why I want you to amend the agenda so the minutes have that it's a formal action. Otherwise, it wouldn't be listed correctly, yeah.
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Have we voted on the agenda change?
Yeah, we
You did.
We just did, yeah.
I'll move approval.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
So now we can have discussion, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I mean, just my concern is not this, just the overall appropriateness of it, and we should try to avoid getting in this spot.
Yeah, Nicole and I missed it in putting the agenda together. We should have had it as a separate item. It's my fault, and I apologize.
So would it be okay if it went on the next consent, or do they need it? Is it urgent this meeting? Just to be totally transparent, it's a process issue for me, that it's not.
We totally have time.
So.
We very much have time for this to go to a next board.
So I would suggest that we just.
Just table it then.
If people are okay with that, just.
Yep, motion to table.
Yep. Okay, so
Motion to table if there's a second. If
I'll
there's a
second.
second.
do we
Yeah.
vote on that?
Yeah, it's non-debatable, non-discussable.
Motion's been made to table, motion's made and seconded to table this request until next meeting, put it on the consent agenda. So all those in favor say aye.
I don't think you.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, motion's passed.
And not about the plan at all, be clear, just the
Yeah,
process
no, it's
for me.
just we.
Plan was good.
Sure, that makes total sense.
Okay, thank you
It
for your
looks-
report.
It looks like a great plan.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you for all your hard work on it.
yep. So, now we can adjourn the Community Health Board meeting, and it calls for a recess again. Do we want to recess, or?
You can just skip that if the board wants and
Okay,
continue.
Okay, so we can go on, if we did adjourn, we now reconvene the open workshop meeting